Hey everyone, Stacks here. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm checking out Ruins of Ravencroft Sabertooth #1, but before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and we will get ready to roll. And if you haven't went and checked out Ruins of Ravencroft Carnage #1, it'll help because there's some storyline stuff that's going to jump right in on this one. There's basically a current time storyline and a piece of the story as well, so you're going to want to have both pieces of the puzzle on this. All right, so let's go. Your creative team for this book, you still have Frank Tieri as a writer, Angel Unzueta as your artist for the modern day piece, and Guillermo Sanna as your artist for your flashbacks. Rachel Rosenberg is your colorist for today. Getting into the book, it starts right where the Carnage issue left off, with them descending into this laboratory that was located underneath Ravencroft. And as you get down into this lab, you have all kinds of stuff. You see a Flurkin, you see a scroll, they have Kree and Asgardian DNA. There's all kinds of stuff in this place. There's even a full-size skeleton of a Wendigo down here. But, you know, Reed Richards, Kingpin, Misty Knight, and John Jameson they're going around and they're just looking around. They're kind of in awe of everything that's down here. They're trying to find out who's running the place. Now, ironically, they kind of pick up a picture. I mean, who keeps a picture of themselves just on their desk or whatever? I don't know. Maybe it was on the wall under director of Crazy Lab. But they take a look at it and they realize, hey, this guy kind of looks familiar to me, but they can't quite put their finger on it. They continue down their exploration down a hallway, and they actually find cells where people have been left in there to die. And they come to a door that's sealed and marked unwanted. Well, not being one to, you know, miss out on exploration, old Mr. Fantastic here decides he's going to crank this thing open, and we'll see what's inside. They walk inside, and they believe it to be an empty room, and then suddenly they start hearing this ticking, this tick, 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 from what's actually underground, and suddenly there's a bunch of hands bursting up through the soil and trying to get them. From there, we jump to our historic flashback, and it doesn't stop at Cletus Cassidy's great-great-granddaddy like we saw back in Ravencroft Carnage. This continues on. You have basically a version of Captain America. You find out through history, like the what's his name? Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman, was actually a Ghost Rider, a spirit of vengeance. You find out Teddy Roosevelt was actually a Skrull. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And we finally get to Jonas Ravencroft, who purchases this land and with the intent to build a mental health care facility in order to address some of this stuff. And he actually refers back to his ancestor, Molly Ravencroft, because the health care wasn't available to her at the time. Now, that's a leap, and how he got a picture of her is beyond me, especially being she was like a early 1600s pilgrim, but okay. But despite some struggles, the guy gets this built. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen to him. You know, they protested it. Nobody wants a mental health facility right outside of their backyard. They actually burned it. Somebody actually burned the place down at one point while it was being under construction. And they had a guy who claimed that Mephisto told him to bash his foreman's head in with a hammer. So he did, because, you know, Mephisto told him to do it. But I'm pretty sure old Jonas Ravencroft is like, hey, we got our first customer. From there, we jump to 1909, where you have a patient being admitted to it. And it's actually what appears to be the Black Knight. Now, if you want a quick laugh, I did my British accent for the preview video for this, but I don't think I can pull it off right now. But long story short, the guy on the gurney here is sitting there yelling, you know, I am Sir Percy of Scandia. He's saying, look, I'm sitting here by Morgan Le Fay. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. But if you don't let me out of here, I'll tell Arthur Pendragon himself. And then I'll hunt you down like the dogs you are. Release me now. At that point, one of the doctors chimes in that maybe we should listen to him. Because, you know, what if he's telling the truth? And she justifies this by saying, I don't think it's ridiculous. We've heard these fascinating stories that existed around here for centuries. Well, this other doctor just basically, you know, laughs at him and says, you know what else? Do you believe in Santa? Do you believe in the elves that leave you presents underneath your tree? Tell me, have you hung your stocking? And he just kind of laughs and is leaving. And you find out that it's actually Dr. Nathaniel Essex. I mean, you can check out that shadow there and you know right away, boom, that's Mr. Sinister, dude. But he's not going to be the only one from the X-Men Rogue Gallery in this, of course, because it's called Sabretooth. And we find out that Sabretooth, Victor Creed, is actually working at Ravencroft as some kind of nurse, or probably more like hired muscle for Mr. Sinister. Well, what we find out is he's in here talking to somebody and introduces himself and says, hey, it's nice to finally meet you. I'm Victor. You don't know me, but I'm the reason you're here right now. He picked, and what it is, he's picked this guy up who, and he holds up the newspaper, and it says the Knickerbocker Knifer strikes again, and you got some dude with his leg severed off there. And Creed explains to him, I found you in this beautiful mess. I scooped you up and I brought you back here. Then he says, I don't know if you actually did it. I don't really care. But I do know what you did this before, and you did it to my sister, and you did it with my brother. And now I'm going to make you pay for it, runt. And you look down and it's Logan sitting there, just lobotomized, sitting there with his eyes rolled back in his head, looking all just completely out of it. Was at that point that Dr. Essex busts in the room and tells him, Victor, that specimen better be left untouched. Do you understand? And he's like, I ain't even messed with them yet. You know, much. So you're thinking the good doctor up to some good, right? Well, you would be wrong, because he's like, I've been waiting to catch this subject for some time, and then he just pulls out a saw and just starts whacking through Logan's arm. By the time you get to the next page, he's one arm down. He can no longer clap. Fortunate for him, the other doctor that's here has finally had enough of it. She comes in, she rescues him, she unstraps him, starts to help him escape, when suddenly Victor Creed's there at the door. And he quickly knocks Logan to the side, who's sitting there still with his eyes rolled back in his head. And he gets right up in the good doctor's face here, and she's sitting there, she's standing her ground against him, and then Logan is suddenly on his back and sends some claws right up through his chin. So at that point, Victor Creed's busy bleeding on himself. Logan falls to the floor, and she works on helping getting him up. Now, one thing, being that this is 1909, I think we should have gotten some bone claws there instead of steel claws, as much as I'm not a fan of bone claws, but I think we should have had them there, technically, right? Anyways, Logan gets up, he's able to take off, and Creed is also healing up at this time. So he stands up and goes and starts talking to Dr. Russell and just letting her know that Logan's not the only one that's a fast healer. And it's at that point that she begins to transform. She is a werewolf, a good old-fashioned lycanthrope, and she is actually just taking it to Creed up until the point where she gets sedated by Mr. Sinister, who snuck up behind her. And once she's sedated, she's out cold, and that's the last time that anyone ever sees the good doctor. Apparently, she left a note for Dr. Ravencroft, and it was in her handwriting, and it was something she had talked about doing, leaving and going to Romania and all this stuff. But it's something just didn't sit right with him. But he does say that he knew something was going on. He knew something had happened to her, and he knew that Dr. Nathaniel Essex had something to do with it. And from that day forward, he never trusted him again. And that's when you get a shot of the werewolf on the table basically being dissected and studied. Back to inside the room that Reed Richards managed to get him into, they are facing a horde of these insane looking monsters. Well, between Reed Richards, Man-Wolf, Misty Knight, and Kingpin, they're holding their own for a good second or two, but they're quickly overwhelmed by just the numbers of creatures that are coming at them. They manage to break for the door and get it at least part of the way closed, but they're all pushing up against it, and they finally have to slam it shut, and in doing so actually cut off a few of the arms of whatever it is that are in there. Now, for whatever reason, and maybe y'all can help me with this, Kingpin, when they went in that room, he saw something that freaked him out. I don't know what it is. Misty Knight saw it, and she tries to call him out on it, but he basically blows her off and tells her, I ain't answering your questions. Anyways, guys, what do you think that the Kingpin saw that is freaking him out? The next one is Ravencroft Dracula. So I'll be interested to see what that is. I may or may not pick it up. Honestly, I picked these up because it's a really slow week with other books. I think the nice little cameo by Wolverine is pretty cool. I guess it's probably him after coming out of his berserker rage and all that stuff. But I do think they screwed up. 1909, I think it's a little bit early for him to have his metal claws. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't yet, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, and yeah, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, guys. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you have a good week. That's all I got. Real Comic Stacks out.